Om Bhadram Karneभिः शृणुयाम देवाः
भद्रं पश्येमाक्षभिर्यजत्राः स्थिरैरङ्गैः स्तुष्ट्वागुंसस्तनूभिः व्यशेम देवहितं यदायुः स्वस्ति न इन्द्रो वृद्धश्रवाः स्वस्ति नः पूषा विश्ववेदाः स्वस्ति नस्तार्क्ष्यो अरिष्टनेमिः स्वस्ति नो बृहस्पतिर्दधातु Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.
So we are discussing in the previous session this important Darshana Adarsana Vritti. Darshana Vritti is the experiences belonging to the Jagrut state. It is called Darshana because it was Spashta. Whatever we experience in waking state, we can remember clearly because the five senses of perception and the five senses of action are involved along with mind. So it is spashtam, otherwise aspashtam. So it's a mental process, that is the Swapna state. Now, of course, there are a few things to be kept in mind. How this Swapna state is clearly distinguished from Jagrut state. It's clear, Darshana and Adarsana Vrittis, Spashta and Aspashta. Both these states are again distinguished from Sushupti state. So, in Anandagiri, by introducing this, I think this maybe the fifth mantra, he says, Tasya vrittihi atra astidi adarsana vritti vasana matram. So adarsana vritti is vasana matram. Swapna. Swapna is just a creation of vasana. Vasanas are nothing but the solidified form of vrittis, which again are the residual effects of actions. Actions do not necessarily mean physical actions. So an idea coming to our mind that flashes in our mind is also an action. A word we speak, when we think of speaking a word, that also is an action. Anything that creates a vritti is a karma in Vedantic tradition, also in the yoga tradition. Karma, vritti, samskara, sankalpa, vasana, and again karma, vritti like that. That is how the wheel operates. So, Anandagiri says, Swapnastayohu sushuptavadeva swapasya tattva agrahanasya tulyatvat. So, tattva agrahana, absence of the awareness of our true identity, is the one common factor that is common in all the three states. Yatra supta ityukte tayoravi vyavachedena prasaktaha tasusuptasya eva grahanartham. Now here you find certain terms used in the Mandukya tradition. Swapna, smriti, vasana, etc. Now, generally speaking, when we remember an incident that happened in the past, that memory is only just a replay of vasana that comes from previous experience. And it may be just a vasana mental process, but it has a visual and audio effect also. All the five senses can still function at the mental level. For example, you listen to a music 10 years ago. When you again practice that music today, you'll be hearing the teacher teaching you 10 years ago. Or if you heard a sound yesterday, you learned a word from a foreign language, or you listened to some chanting or song or music from a music teacher yesterday. The music teacher has gone, you are not seeing him. And you are not hearing his music also. But today, when you remember the music, you are again hearing it. But that hearing takes place at the mental level. So all the five senses of perception have a mental dimension. So when this mental dimension alone works, it is called smriti. So Smriti is the same thing as, for example, Klesha Samskara in Patanjali Yoga system called Klesha Samskaras, means samskaras which are accumulated in the Chittam, the mental system, which may get spread over several life cycles. So something that you have done, some higher spiritual practice, you have practiced sometime maybe 500 years ago, let's say 15 life cycles earlier. But that samskara is working, but it has no visible dimension. Something that you have seen 10 years ago, when you remember, the visual audio experience also is replayed. But a samskara, when is again working out, a samskara that comes from previous life cycles, that functions as an involuntary instinct. And that is the real meaning of vasana. So we all vasanas in spiritual life. And we don't know how, we don't know when we deposited this vasana in the mental system called chitta. It may be in previous life cycles. So when we remember in like a darsana, spashta means obvious and visible, it is from this life. When you remember in a aspashta state, it may be from previous life. It is a vague recollection from previous life. It is a clear, visible, concrete recollection from this life. So that should be kept in mind because this idea comes again and again. No, to make it very clear, to clearly describe the state of Sushupti, the Upanishad literature, Chandogya and Brihadaranyaka, gives two great examples. One is Mahamatsya Drishtanta in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, 4th chapter. And the other one is Shakuni Drishtanta in the Chandogya Upanishad, the 6th chapter, in the Tattwamasi Mahavakya Vichara context. It's a very wonderful and celebrated illustration of the working of our prajna at the Sushupti level. So, the Upanishad tells you that our Jagra state and Swapna state originate from Sushupti state. Normally, we imagine that we first we are in the waking state, we go to sleep, dream, and then we gradually go to deep sleep. But it's the other way around. Deep sleep or Sushupti is the causal form. Jagra Swapna states are effects. Why? It's a clear reason. In Sushupti there is only Adgrahana, Tattva Pradibodha, absence of awareness, spiritual awareness. In Jagrat and Swapna state, there is Anyatha Grahanam also. So, when you compare two states which have got both the causal and also the effect form, when you compare that with a state where only cause exists, then the causal form is the origin and the effect form is a value, it comes from the origin. And to make this clear, these two Upanishads give the example of Mahamatsya Drishtanta and Shakuni Drishtanta. In the Mahamatsya Drishtanta, it comes in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Tadyatha Mahamatsya Ube Kule Anusancharadi. The huge fish that is moving freely in a river. Purvam cha aparam cha. It goes to the east bank and also west bank. From the east, it moves to the west. The river is from north south. Where is the residence of the Mahamatsya? Neither east bank or western bank, but rather the river itself. So, and what is the river? The river is Sushupti. So, going to other bank, for that, here the fish has to move within the river. That is Jagra state. From Jagra state, if the fish has to come to Swapna state, then also it has to go through the same river, Sushupti. So Sushupti is the origin, the genesis. That's why Tad yatha mahamasya ubhe kule anusancharadi purvam cha aparam cha. Evameva ayam purusha etau ubhau antau anusancharadi swapnantam buddhantam cha. Swapna state and Jagra state. So comparatively in the Jagra state we can see different objects. The Vedanta. The other example is very well known. It comes in the Tattwamasi Mayavati Vichaya. A bird that is tied to a tree and it has to move around, but it cannot move away from a specific distance from the pole to which it is tied. So the pole or the pillar to which the bird is tied by a rope is Sushupti. And different places, because the bird will fly to the east, west, south and north, etc. Just like the Mayavi, the magician, throws the rope and he climbs to the heavens and he moves along this rope that is thrown to the sky. We saw that Mayavi to start. So like that, the bird moves around. Like the Mahamasya moves from east bank to west bank. The bird also moves. But then the bird belongs to the pole to which it is tied. The Mahamasya, the fish also, it belongs to the river. It doesn't belong either to the east bank or west bank. Similarly, Sushupti is the causal state where Agrahanam alone exists. And Anyatha Grahanam is only a natural result of Agrahanam. You cannot have misconception unless you have non-conception, or you can have your wrong perception is the result of absence of perception, correct perception. Absence of the right perception is the causal form of misconception. This idea behind. So Agrahanam is the cause of Anyatha Grahanam. Now, how does a person merge into Sushupti? How do you compare the Sushupti with Jagrat Swapna states? That is clearly shown in this paragraph. Sthanadvaya pravibhaktam manaspandidam dvairajadam. Sthanadvaya pravibhaktam. Jagrat Swapna state, just sthanadvaya, two sthanas, two states. Pravibhaktam manaspandidam. You have to remember the manaspandidam. This is a word to be kept in mind. According to Mandukya Upanishad, the whole creation, this Virat Prapancha, is a manaspandanam of Vaishwanara. And that Vaishwanara is the same as Hiranyagarbha and Ishvara. Vaishwanara is the samashti bhava of Vishwa, Jagra state. And Hiranyagarbha is the samashti bhava of Taijasa, Supna state. And Ishvara or Antaryami or Avyakrita in some context is the samashti bhava of Prajna state. So the whole creation, this Bhuta Prapancha is a Manaspantanam. So Manaspantitam is called. Dvedajadam. That's why the word is used. Dvedajadam is qualified by the term Manaspantitam. Tatha rupa parityagena avivekapannam. So this external visible world, Dvaita Prapancha, which is a Manaspantanam or Spuranam of Vaishwanara or Hiranyagarbha or Ishvara, this external world, Tatha Rupa Parityagena, without giving up his existing form, what happens? Avivekapannam. Aviveka means inability to distinguish one from the other. So before going further, I shall explain what this is. Suppose, I mentioned this earlier, suppose you are standing on one side of the river, and on the other side there is a big ship, there is a city, there are trees and mountains and human beings, everything, cars, roads, everything. Daytime. And suddenly, suppose due to some dark cloud or something, the whole place becomes enveloped by darkness. Then what happens is, these visible forms, cars and trees and mountains that are in the distance, they don't undergo any change. That's why tatharupa aparityagena. They don't undergo any change. But avivekapannam. Aviveka here means a state of being unable to distinguish, to tell one from the other. Because in clear light, you can see this is a tree, this is a mountain, this is a human being. But that viveka goes away. It becomes aviveka, means avivekapatti. You attain a state of inability to distinguish one from the other. Then what happens is naisatamo gristam ivaka. So naisena tamasa gristam akaiva means naisatama means the darkness that is associated with this nisha means night or darkness night. So this daylight, this day becomes covered, tamagrasta means covered by darkness. Then what happens? This avivekapatti means absence of our ability to distinguish one object from the other. And then what happens is sapramancham eki bhudam idi uchyate. So everything seems to have become enveloped into one indistinguishable, weak entity. You just see a kind of darkness. You cannot say that this is a tree, this is a mountain, this is a human being. No. Everything should be covered in some kind of a darkness, which is normally associated with nisha or night. This is what happens in Sushupti state. So in Sushupti state, our ability to distinguish one from the other, our ability to understand, to perceive anyatha grahanam, different objects, beauty world, the ability itself becomes benumbed, gets lost because of darkness. So now you find among many Vedantis, and unfortunately even some of those who claim to be traditional scholars, they have argued Sushupti and Samadhi are the same. See, Shankaracharya's Bhashya makes it very, it's absolutely wrong to state that. In Sushupti, this avivekapatti means attaining a state of inability to distinguish one from the other. Because naishatama, the darkness associated with night. That's what is happening in Sushupti. But in Samadhi or spiritual enlightenment, that kind of Samadhi that we normally talk about is not part of discussion in the Mandukya. It never comes there. Samadhi itself, according to Mandukya, is an attempt to reach that kind of vichara. Just like saying, suppose somebody tells you, suppose if there is some kind of a psychiatric problem, you forget your name, you forget where you are. But if somebody reminds you, immediately you remember that. God forbid that it happens to you, like that. But if the psychiatrist, somebody says, this is your name, immediately you recollect. So, like that, for some time, our ability to distinguish one object from the other, that gets atrophied, or that ability, the faculty becomes dysfunctional. That's what happens in Sushupti. But in spiritual enlightenment, what you call samadhi, jivan mukti, or whatever it is, what happens is you are continuing to live in this world. You stay here, you travel by air, you do all your work, your office work. Janaka was sitting in a court, right, and running a kingdom. And he was a Brahmajnani. So he was continuing. Vyasa was a butcher. After getting spiritual enlightenment, he continued doing his work in the Mahabharata, Vyasa Gita. So then what happens is, you continue living this world, you look at the same Drishya Prapancha, but you look at it differently. Because you are living this world, but every minute, every second, you remember it is Mithya Jagat. That is very clear. Just like you brought light, you understood it is not a snake. Now somebody will switch off the light, and you will not hesitate to take the so-called snake, this piece of rope on your head, because there is no doubt for you that it is just a piece of rope. A Jiva Mukta continues living in this world, just like anybody who knows it is a piece of rope only. So the Jiva Mukta continues living in this world, he lives, he interacts with the world, but he is not affected. He knows it is not a sarpa, it is only a piece of rope. So the whole attitude changes. That's why Turiyanandaji's statement, Brahma Satyam, Jagat Satyam. Brahma Satyam, Jagat Satyam is experience. Brahma Satyam, Jagat Mithya is philosophy. But we can only reach up to that point, penultimate state. Anubhuti doesn't become a subject of discussion, philosophization. So, that is the state of enlightenment, and that is totally different from the Sushupti. So, now you can understand how absolutely ridiculous it is to say that Sushupti and Samadhi are the same. Absolutely wrong. Again, so Naisha Tamogristham Iva Akas Sapravanjam Eki Bhudam. I mean, everything becomes one invisible, vague entity. You cannot distinguish one from the other. Iti Ataeva Swapna Jagrat Manaspandhanani Prajnanani Ghani Bhudani Iva. Ghani Bhudani Iva. All these perceptions, all these ideas, they appear to have become Ghani Bhuda. Because Prajnanani means all the understanding, all bodhas, everything appear to have become. But really, Prajna doesn't undergo any change. That's why Iva is mentioned here. It's not really so, but it's Iva. Sa iyam avastha avivega rubatva prajnana ghana uchyate. So Prajnana Ghani Bhuda, it becomes, it is solidified. That's why, in the Mandukya Upanishad, Sinkhova, Vyaghova, etc., all these animals also, they also go into Sushupti. And animals don't have dream. They only have Sushupti. That's what veterinary doctors tell you. They don't have dream because they cannot retain the vasanas in a concrete form in their chitta. So, because when they see something, it functions as an instinct. To become a vasana, you should have a chitta or antakaranam. Without antakaranam, an experience doesn't become a vasana or a sankalpa. Animals don't have it. Animals have this kind of reflecting medium. Animals do have, remember in the Panchadashi, Vidyaranya says, he makes a distinction between animal kingdom, human being, and also this external empirical world, these trees and rocks and so on. So he says, these trees and rocks and all these, they also have Atman, but they don't have an Antakarana. Animals do have an instinct, but that instinct is not sufficient to convert experiences into vasanas, which they will recollect again and act accordingly. So that a dog which is able to recognize his master, it does it so only at the level of instinct, not at the level of vasana coming forward and helping the person to recognize a past event. No. So that's why say sa iyam avastha avegaruvatva prajnanaghana uchide yatha ratro naishena tamasa avibhajyamanam sarvam ghanamiva. This at night, when this pitch darkness, or when daytime is covered by darkness, maybe due to dark cloud. All these examples are the same. Yatha ratro naishena tamasa avibhajyamanam. I mean, cannot be distinguished, we cannot see one from the other. Sarvam ghanamiva tadvat prajnana ghanaiva eva shabdat na jatindram prajnana vidiregena asti yatha. It means the word eva is used here, which means there is nothing here other than prajnana. So this state only prajnana. So prajnanam alone exists in sushupti. There is, why do we say that this is prajnanam still existing in sushupti? Because the man who is waking will be able to recollect that he underwent some kind of an experience which during the so-called sushupti state. Now one may ask this question, what about anesthesia, what you call murcha, antarala avastha? The bhasha, the term is used antarala avastha. If you undergo anesthesia. Anesthesia doesn't give you rest. Only your sensibilities is mechanically atrophied or killed. So it is a very painful experience. The only state in which you can get complete rest is sushupti. And that's because that's a state where all the, in the next paragraph will say, subject-object connectivity is completely gone. So you feel really at home with your own inner being. That is the experience of sushupti. So that's why prajnana vidiregena nasti eva shabda jatindram nasti. Prajnana ghana jatindram nasti means the word eva is used in prajnana ghana eva. That is the bhashya. Eva is used to emphasize the point that this state is nothing but a state in which prajnanam alone exists, awareness alone exists. And this state cannot happen in either murcha, if somebody may collapse due to some problems, maybe dehydration, they happen, or anesthesia. But all these states are equally painful because the absence of complete restfulness. That's the idea behind it. Which means Dvaita Bhava is not there. Only your ability to experience Dvaita is artificially, forcibly nullified or benumbed. That's the idea behind it. Now, manasaha vishaya akara spandana ayasa dukkha bhavat. So, there are a few things which are absent in the sushupti state. One, subject-object distinction, where mind is not vibrating as subject and object. Actually, we feel restless only when we look upon somebody other than ourselves. If there is somebody whom we don't want, we don't like, we hate, our mind becomes disturbed. Because the subject-object distinction is, it becomes more emphatic. On the other hand, if there is somebody whom we don't dislike, that disturbance is less. So wherever there is Dvaita, there will be conflict, there will be restlessness, there will be disturbance. Wherever there is Dvaita Abhava, which is possible only in the highest spiritual experience, Turiya experience, or in Sushupti, there is complete restfulness. And then ayasa means effort. Any kind of effort is painful, because effort is always an attempt to exert a body or mind or intellect somewhere or other against their will. That is effort. You lift a stone, there is an effort involved because it doesn't happen without some work on your part, which is in conflict with your natural state of body. You have to lift it, which is your hand are free. You lift it, so there is effort, ayasa, and dukkha. Dukkha, again, it is just a kind of inner disturbance. So, here Bhashyakara says, in Sushupti state, there is no subject-object conflict, and there is no ayasa, no effort, and there is no dukkha. That's why Manasaka Vishayi Akara Spandana Ayasa Dukkha Bhavad. In Sushupti state, Anandamaya, Ananda Praya, na Ananda eva. So it is a blissful state. Why? Because the Sushupti state is mentioned after mentioning Jagrat and Swapna. So compared to Jagrat state, where there is Vishayi, subject-object distinction, there is effort, there is always some kind of dukkha. And also in Swapna state. Swapna state also can be very painful. Nightmare can be very painful. Nightmare also is a dream actually. So compared to this Jagrat Swapna states, Sushupti state is Ananta Maya. So Maya Pratyaya means lot of blissfulness, but not blissfulness itself. That's why Ananda Maya, Ananda Prayaha, na Ananda Iva, Ananda Eva. It is not Ananda itself. The Ananda itself we can call only in the highest Turiya experience. But there is a huge amount of blissfulness, Ananda. So Maya Pratyaya is in Sushupti state. So why it is not called Ananda Eva? Why it is specially mentioned that it is not Ananda itself? The reason is given Anatindikatva, because one day that state will come to an end. When you wake up from Sushupti, it's gone. That Ananda is gone. So Anatindikatva. I mean, one day you will lose it. One day it is something that will be lost one way or other. Yatha loke nirayasaha sthidaha sukhi ananda bhukchide. The example is given. Suppose you are walking, traveling, bearing a huge weight, and for a short time you keep it down somewhere, or somebody takes it away from you. Then what happens? Nirayasa. Nirayasa means ayasa is gone. Ayasa rahita means the huge burden you're bearing on your head, on your head or somewhere, which you have kept it on the ground. So you become ayasa, nirayasa means. But again, it is only state between the two. Before you lifted that weight and kept on the ground, you are going through ayasa. And after some time again you have to carry it and go to your place. Then also ayasa. So it has a beginning, it has an end. It's an interval. So that's why, all kinds of empirical experience, called sukha, dukkha, etc., is only a temporary absence of unhappiness. In Buddha's Devika, in the commentary, which is a small tika where Madhusudana Saraswati clearly follows the footsteps of Shankaracharya. It's with Dhanavadi Suri's commentary. So he says, every experience of happiness at the empirical level is only a temporary absence of unhappiness. A temporary absence of unhappiness. That is right. The real happiness comes only when you go beyond happiness and happiness equation. That is Brahmananda, the experience coming out of spiritual knowledge. Na ananda eva anatindikatvat yatha loke nirayasava sthidaha sukhi. So he experiences little sukha, because carrying the weight was dukkha, So keeping it somewhere for some time, take rest is sukha. So sukhi ananda bhuk uchyate. So atyanta anayasa rupahi yam sthitihi anena atmana nibhuyate iti ananda bhuk. So why is Susupti called ananda bhuk? Atyanta anayasa rupahi yam avastha. The prajna state is atyanta anayasa. That is, I mentioned earlier. Susupti comes automatically. You can never be sure when you actually enter Susupti. Suppose you go on watching from what moment, 10, 9, 10 on while you sleep. You cannot really begin your Susupti at 9, 10. If you watch, find out when you are going to sleep, you will never sleep. So Susupti can happen only without any control on our part. There is no effort involved. It is ayatna lalita. It is spontaneous. It is effortless. It just happens, and we can never be aware of when we are beginning to experience Susupti. That's why Atyantanaya means absolutely no effort, no labor, totally devoid of any kind of effort. Atyantanaya Srupa hi iyam sthitihi anena atmana anubhuyate iti ananda bhuk. So somehow we say that because we experience this state of total absence of ayasa, total absence of Vishaya spandana, and also total absence of dukkha. So without being able to experience Susupti, you won't be able to think of a possibility or even a remote possibility of a state where you can retire from all the problems of the world. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. In all devotional traditions, in Ramanujacharya's, interesting to compare Ramanuja's Pratipatti Siddhanta and Saranagati Siddhanta. Anubuddhisa Sankalpava Pradibuddhisa Vajjanam Lakshasiri Vishwasa Bhaktukta Varnamtha Atma Nisheva Karpanne Shadvidha Saranagati. This is the comparison. So Atma Niksheva is the Angi. The other 5 elements are Angas, mean aspects, elements. Anubuddhisa Sankalpa, you should always positive thoughts. And Pradibuddhisa Vajjanam, we should always avoid wrong thoughts. You see, the positive psychology is an absolute fake, according to Mandukya Upanishad, because you cannot have a positive psychology as such. You should have a psychology that takes you beyond positive negative equation. If you cling to positive psychology, then one day you will stumble upon negative psychology. So I often mention it for a little diversion in America in business management schools. Maybe Krishna Kumar may be aware of those things. These executives, the CEOs, pay $500 per session every day, and they have to repeat, I'm positive, and then I shall succeed, I shall win, I will lose my job. They lift their hands, both their hands, and shout loudly, I will succeed. And they pay $500 per day. This is positive psychology. But then they may lose their job after some time. The higher you fly, the lower you fall. So the real answer is to go beyond negative positive equation. The ability to look upon negative with the same equanimity of mind with which you look upon positive. Going beyond both, that's the real answer. So that's a real Ananda Eva, this is mentioned here. This Susupti is the temporary absence. You remember this example. You are lifting, you are bearing a huge burden, and then after some time you kept it somewhere. You are taking rest. But you cannot avoid it. After some time again you have to carry on your head and walk. So this restful state is only an interval between two states. That's why Na Ananda Eva mentioned here. But in this Ananda book, Ananda Prayana. For some time, when you take the burden away from your head, you feel a great sense of restfulness. So it is, that's why, Ananda Maya, Maya Pratyami Prabhutam means, I mean, a lot of huge quantity of Ananda you get, but again, Anatandikatva. So Ramanuja's Prabhati also will help you to take the hard with the soft. It means everything should be taken, every painful experience is a blessing from God. That's true. But Vedanta asks you to look upon painful and happy experiences with the same equanimity of mind. I mean, look at both sides of the coin as two sides of the coin. You need not be happy when you see one side of the coin and unhappy with the other side of the coin. That's why Gaudapada tells in one of his Karya Bhashya, it says, the only way to avoid unhappiness is to stop looking for happiness. That you find in the Karya Bhashya. So Yeshasya Parama Ananda, this is Sudi is quoted here. So now coming to subject. Sopnadi Pradibodham Cheda Pradi Dwari Bhudatva Chetu Mukha. So you have to look at this mantra now. You see, that is the reference to the mantra. That is Yatra Supto na Kanchanam Kamayedena Kanchana Supnam Vasyindi Tat Susuptam Susuptasthane Eki Bhuda Prajnanagana Eva Anandamaya is already explained. The Ananda book also explained. Chetu Mukha is going to be explained. So, why it is called Chetu Mukha? Swapnadi Pradibodham Cheta Pradi Dwari Bhudatva Chetu Mukha. So, Susupti state is a door through which you enter Jagrat and Swapna stage. This is again behind. When the Mahamatsya, the fish wants to move from east bank to west bank, it has to go through the same river. Because the river is the place where it resides. It doesn't reside in the east bank or west bank. It resides, the crocodile or the fish, its residential address is the river, not east bank or west bank. Similarly, Susupti is the residential address. From there you enter Jagra state and Supna state. So it is Dwari Bhudatva. So the Susupti state is the door through which this Prajna enters Jagra state and then again later enters Supna state, but all the time residing in the river Susupti state. Or the bird, example, Saguni Drishtanta, the bird is residential place is the port to which it is tied. That port controls up to what distance it can move. So it belongs to the place where there is a port to which it is tied. So, and wherever it moves depends upon the place where the pole is tied. It is kept, the anchor is kept to which the bird is tied. This is how you start. Supnadi Paribodham Cheda Pradidwari Bhudatva Chedamukha. Bodha Lakshanam Va Cheto Dwaram Mukham Asya Supnadi Agamanam Praditi Cheto Mukha Bhuda Bhavishat Jnatuttam Sarva Vishat Jnatuttam Asyevayidi Pratnika. So this explanation continues. From Sushupti state only, Swapna and Jagra state originate. That's the idea behind here, Bodha Lakshanam Va Cheto Dwaram Mukham Asya Supnadi Agamanam. See, the Prajna moves towards Swapna state and Jagra state only from Sushupti state. This is a very important point to remember. According to Mandukya Upanishad and Karika and Bhashya, the central focus is Sushupti. Totally unlike our common perception. We all believe normally that Jagra state is the beginning. From there you go to Swapna, then Sushupti. It's the other way around. Sushupti is like the river, and Swapna state is one bank of the river, east bank. Jagra state is the other bank, west bank. And the ocean of the river is the Sushupti state. Why? Because Sushupti state, the causal form. Another important reason is the effect has no ontological existence independent of the cause. According to Satkaryavada, which I explained yesterday. I mentioned this Satkaryavada is a Karya Karana Sambandhavada. A view, a method of analysis based on the relationship or the absence of it between cause and effect. So the view that the effect pre-exists in cause is Satkaryavada. Karya, effect, is Sat existing in Karana. Means the cloth, the stitched cloth exists in the thread from which it is made. The golden necklace exists in the gold. The clay pot pre-exists in the clay. How do we know? You remove all the clay from clay pot, there is no clay pot. The clay can exist without the clay pot in its form, but clay pot cannot exist without clay. Like that, Sushupti is the Karanam, the cause. Like the clay, like the gold. And Jagra Swapna are like different types of utensils, pots and pans made of clay or different ornaments made of gold. So again, Ukta Nyayataka Bhashagara mentioned means, what is the Nyaya? Vacharambanam Vikaro Namadheyam Murtivityava Satyam. That is also a substantiation of Satkaryavada. So, to understand this very clearly, the opposite is Asatkaryavada. Asatkaryavada, every effect is a new product, Arambhavada. Satkaryavada in its Vivarta aspect is followed by Shunyavadins and also Advaitins. In its Parinama aspect is followed by Sankhyas primarily, and also most of the Vaishnava philosophers beginning with Ramanuja and others. Ramanuja is very clear, everything, the entire Achit and Chit are evolutes of Ishvara. Chidati Visishtam, the definition of Vishishtadvaita. Okay, coming to subject. So that's why, and again, Bhuda Bhavishya Jnatuttam Sarva Vishaya Jnatuttam Asya Evaidi Prajna. Here, when you use the word Prajna, we should not get away with the impression we are talking about the Vyasti aspect of a person going to sleep with Susupta. It says Prajna is to be understood both in its micro and macro dimension, in its Adhyatmika and also Adidevika dimension. The Adideva dimension, the universal dimension of Prajna is Ishvara. So remember, so when we use the Prajna here, in Jiva Bhava, in the sense of Jiva, it is limited. It is Parijatya. It is limited. But in universal aspect, it is Ishvara himself. So Prajna in its universal dimension, it is called Ishvara, Antaryami, in some context Abhyakuta. Ishvara and Antaryami are two terms to be understood clearly. So that's why we say Prajna. So Bhuda Bhavishya Jnatuttam Sarva Vishaya Jnatuttam Asevedi Prajna. That is Ishvara. Susuptopi Hi Bhuda Purva Gatya Prajna Uchyate. Another example is even the ordinary Jiva also, the Susupti state, is called Prajna because that Jiva has got some awareness in Jagrit and Swapna state, in the previous states also. Athava Prajnapti Manasya Manaspantana Mantram. This idea behind here. But other Jivas need a lot of other things. That way, Nisha, you are not like other Jivas mentioned here. So now here is quotation from Chandogya, Tattwamasi Mahavakya Vichara, Dalaga, Pranabandhanam Ki Swami Mana, etc. This again, here, Prana corresponds to Brahman, Mana corresponds to Jiva, and here all the different movements of this bird which is tied the pole, correspond to the movement of prajna from one bank to the other bank, or the bird from moving one end to other end. So that's the idea behind. Iti sudehi, so pranabandhanam ki somyamana, iti sudehi. Ayameva hi sarvasya bhedavasthu jnata iti esha sarvajna. Very good sarvajna. This Ishvara is the knower of everything in this world, including avastha bheda, including different states. That is Jagra states of states Sushupti state. So the entire Dvaita Prapancha, not only at Virat level, but also at the not only the Adhyatma level, but also Adidevika level, is controlled and created by this Ishvara, but understood by this Ishvara. So Ishvara is called Sarvajna. Ayamevahi Sarvasya Sarvabhedavasthu. Sarvabhedavastha means that is Jagra, Swapna, Sushupti states of all jivas is understood and realized and known by Ishvara as a Sarvajna. Ayamevahi Sarvasya Sarvabhedavastu Jnata iti esha Sarvajna. Atayeva esha Antarvyami Antaranupravishya Sarvesham Bhudanam Yamayita. So this Ishvara endures everything in this world. You know, in the Upanishad there is a statement. Anupravishya Satyatycha Abhavat. So, you know, Anupravishya Satyatycha Abhavat. So, this Ishvara creates his world, then does the Antapravesha, then becomes everything. What is visible, what is non-visible, what is Thura, what is Sukshma. Satyatycha Bhavat. Sarvesham Bhudanam Yamayita Niyanta Api Esha Eva. Atayava Yadhoktam Sabhedam Jagat Prasuyide iti Esha Yonihi. So the whole creation takes place from this Ishvara. Means by Ishvara, Manaspandanam is the cause, is the origin of this universe. Through Manaspandanam, Ishvara creates this world. Esha Yonihi Sarvasya. Etra evam Prabhascha Pravapayo hi Bhudanam eva, etc. That means, not only the origin but also the point of dissolution, Udbhava, and also Laya, both happen from this Ishvara. This is the conclusion of this part. The next Karika is Vakish Prajno Vibhur Vishyo hi Anda Prajnas Karyasaha Kana Prajnas Tatha Prajna Eka eva Tithas Prajna. Bhashya comes. Atra edasmin yadokte arthe ete sloka bhavanti bhavishprajniti. Now, emphasizing this point, there is a Karika in according to Gaudavada. Gaudava says, iti paryayena. Paryayana means changing one after another. Paryayana tisthanatvad sohamidi smrtya Padisankhanacha sthanatre vidriktam egattum shuddhattum asangattum cha siddham iti abhipraya. Now one point remember. Turiya is present in all the three states. Jagra, Swapna, Sushupti state. At the same time, this Turiya is sthanatre vidriktam. Means Turiya is distinct and different from all the three states. So Turiya is the same as Vishwa, Taijasa, Prajna, the same as Vaishwanara, Hiranyagarbha and Ishvara. But at the same time, the Turiya is distinct and different from all the three states. We already saw in the commentary, about Srishti. I think I mentioned this morning. There is an elaborate description. I made a Srishti. We go to Vistara, Ishwarasya Srishti Vidhi. Srishti Chintagaham and etc. We mentioned here. For example, Nahi Mayavinam Sutram Akashe Nikshipya Tena Sayudham Aruhya Chakshudvajaramati Itya. So Mayavi, he throws this rope to the sky. We already mentioned this morning. And he climbs this rope. And as he climbs, it's just like this Turiya moving from one state to another state, from Vishwa to Taijasa to Prajna, Jagra to Swapna to Sushupti. But point is, That Turiya is seen to be moving, to be climbing, holding fast to this rope. But Turiya is actually standing there somewhere, not involved in any of this. That's why, Tathaiva Mayavati, etc. Remember? Saeva Bhumishto Maya Chenna Adrishyamana Evasthido. The real Mayavi magician is not climbing anywhere. He is not throwing any rope or anything. He is standing there far away. But you will see him only when you stop seeing this magic. When you see the magic, you don't see the magician. And if you can always see the magician, you won't see the magic. You cannot see both together. Only when we stop seeing the magic, then only we'll be able to see the magician standing apart from all this. That's why in some of there are books on Indrajalam, Mahendrajalam, all that. So in the ancient Indian system, Indrajalam, Mahendrajalam, etc. So it's mentioned in some of these Sanskrit books. These magicians who used to do this kind of play, this rock trick in ancient times, they won't allow anyone to stand on a higher elevation watching the whole thing. Because if you are watching the whole thing from a higher elevation, then you won't be deceived. You can be deceived only if you are on the same level or below that level. So that's the idea behind. So like that, of course, this is a speculation. We don't know how far this is true. But the point is, when you see the magic, you don't see the magician. Only when you stop seeing the magic, then only you find the Saha Bhumishtaiva Sthitaha. The magician is standing there right on the ground. That's what is on the earth, Bhumishta. So that's an important. Like that, Turiya is not involved, is not participating in anything, has absolutely no role either in Jagra state or Swapna state or Sushupti state. But you understand this Turiyasya Sthana Traya Vidhiriktatvam. You understand that Turiya is distinct and different from the Sthana Traya, means that Vishwadaya Prana, the three avasthas, only when you realize the supreme truth. That's the idea behind. That's why Sthana Traya Vidhiriktatvam Ekatvam. Only one Turiya. It is not involved in the three states, only one Turiya. Ekatvam, Shuddhatvam, Asangatvam, etc. Chasiddham Vidya Viprayaka. Sohamiti, that's why I mentioned it, that is the and that supreme truth is mentioned. It is Thanatva Sohamiti Smurtya Padisankara. I think I left it out, a mistake. Paryayena Tristhanatva Sohamiti, that's called Pratyabhijna. Soham, I am that one. Actually, this is actually the justification of Ramana Maharshi's famous teaching, who am I actually. That is nothing but an idea that comes from the Bhashya. So, in the commentary on the 7th mantra it comes, and also here also it comes. For example, the 7th mantra, when you, for example, see, Ekarma Pratyasaram Prapanchopashamam Shantam Shivam Advaitam. Ekarma Pratyasaram. Who is the real I? This knowledge. Who is the real soul? That Aham. Who is he? Who am I? That idea. If you pursue this inquiry to the farthest limit, then you get to real Jnana. That's the idea behind. Here also, Bhashikara says, Padyayena, Parya means from state, one state, and the state Tristhanatvat, Vishwa, Taisa Prajna, Jagra, Swapna, Sushupti, three states. Sohamiti, I am that seer, the perceiver, the drashta, the subject, the all-seeing Sakshi. It is Mutya. With this memory, with this Pratyabhijna, you realize the supreme truth. Now, this is also the basis of the Sakshi Sankalpa, Sakshi concept. Sakshi Vedanta, according to, I think, Advaita Ashrama, Sakshi is Audasinyatva, Bodhitva, cha Sakshitva. Sakshi means witness. Now, if you want to be considered to be a witness in a court of law, you should not have participated in the crime that's being discussed in the court. At the same time, you should be aware of what happened. So, Audasinyatva means you should be a non-participating witness. Witness is the person who has seen, who is a witness to what really happened. So that is bodhitva. You should be aware, you should have awareness of your knowledge of what has really happened. Sakshi witness. At the same time, you should be a non-participant. Then only you qualify for the position of a witness in a court of law. Like Sakshi is like Turiya. So it is Turiya is not involved in any of these experiences in the Jagra Sushupti stage. But Turiya is the one that is now seen to be the seer in Jagra state, Swapna state, Sushupti state. The same magician is seen by all of us, but the gullible people watching the magic show, he climbing the rope, but the real magician is sitting somewhere, Bhumishto Sthidaka. He is not involved in anything. The Turiya is in reality Sakshi. It is not participating in any of the experiences in the three stages. At the same time, he is aware of all this. He is present everywhere. Again, that take the analogy, the Rajasarpa Bhranti. What is the sarpa you are talking about? It is a jewelry. Only you are seeing it as sarpa. That is your problem. So it is Turiya only, but you are seeing Turiya as Vishwa, Taisa, Prajna, etc. When you associate the Turiya with the experiences in waking state, as a seer you call it Vishwa. In dream state, when you see it as a seer of Swapna experiences, you call it Taijasa. And when you see the same in Sushupti, you call it Prajna. But Turiya is Turiya. That's why it is mentioned, this should be understood, Sthana Traya Vedriktatvam. Turiyasya Sthana Traya Vedriktatvam. Turiya is distinct and different and separate from the Avasthatraya, Jagra, Swapna, Sushupti, Asthanatraya. And Ekatvam is the one seer in all the three stages, the one drashta, the one witness. Witness, remember witness means is not participating but present. Bodhritva, Audasinyatva. So let us here. Siddha Vidya Prayaka, Mahamatshyadi, Tishtanta Sudeka. Here also, Bhashyagara refers to Mahamatsya Sudhi. That's again from Vedanta Upanishad. The only example I mentioned earlier, Mahamatsya, the huge fish, I already mentioned many times. No need to repeat again. Okay, this idea behind. So, of course, Suddhatva means there is no raga, dvesha, etc. Asanga means not affected, not bound, etc. Now, next mantra, of course, Dakshinakshi Mukhe Vishyu Manasya Andastu Daijasa Agase Chakriti Prajnasthitha Dekhe Vyavasthitha. Now, here is a Purvapaksha. Purvapaksha, of course. Now, what is Purvapaksha Siddhanta? That should be understood. In Shankara's commentary, he finds Siddhanta Purvapaksha. There is also sometimes a view that is expressed which is neither Purvapaksha nor Siddhanta. So Purvapaksha is a mechanism that he used widely. So in different books, different non-Advaita philosophers' views are projected as Purvapaksha, means the opponent's view, the opposing view. Purvapaksha can also be called a prima facie view, means when you in a court of law, when apparently there is enough evidence for this to really proceed. So that kind of opinion, first impression. So that first impression in Vedanta is inevitably wrong, but in the court of law it's not necessarily wrong. That's the idea behind. It can prove to be wrong, it can prove to be right also in court of law. So very often Guru Paksha is often translated as prima facie view, not entirely wrong, but not entirely correct either. Because Purva Paksha in Shankara Bhashya is essentially a non-Advaitic view which is going to be contradicted and refuted, but not in a court of law. Prima facie view may stand in a court of law. This is a different subject. So here is a Purva Paksha. Nanu anyo hiranyagarbha kshetrajno dakshine akshini akshno niyanda drashta cha anyo dekha swami na sadu bheda anabhyugamaat. Purva Paksha. So here point is a reference to an early statement. Purva Paksha says Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha is the samashti dimension of Swapna experiences, Sukshma. And then Viratma is Sthula. So there is a difference. Nanu anyo hiranyagarbha kshetrajno dakshine akshini akshnoga niyanda drashta sanyo dekha swami. So Sukshma Prapanchabhimani, that is Hiranyagarbha, and who exists in the Vyashti, in this Vyashti Samashti dimension. The Hiranyagarbha is one, and then Virat Purusha, that is Sthula Prapanchabhimani, the Samashti dimension of Jagra state, that is another. How can they be the same? So this particular Purva Paksha is mentioned. How can you see a similarity or identity between Sthula Prapanchabhimani and also Sukshma Prapanchabhimani? So, and we will discuss this later. Do we have person time now? Oh, if you have any question, you can ask. I forgot about the question answer. We should have stopped 5 minutes ago. You can ask the question, yeah. Any question? No question. Okay, very good. Okay, now Eko Deva Sarva Bhuteshu Gudha Iti Srutehi Kshetrajnam Chabimam Vidhi Sarva Kshetreshu Bhala Iti this Bhagavad Gita Vibhaktam Cha Bhuteshu Vibhakta Vibhajasthidam etc. So Vaishwanara is Sthula Prapancha, means earlier it was stated the Vaishwanara which identifies itself as the experiencer of this Vida Prapancha at the gross level Jagra state, and Hiranyagarbha which is the Samashti dimension of Taijasa. Now all these constitute the same. This idea is not fully acceptable to Purva Paksha. So at the beginning of this answer, Bhashyakara quotes Bhagavad Gita. The same reality exists in all living beings. Eko Deva Sarva Bhuteshu Gudha Iti Svedasudara. And again, in all entities, the same reality exists, as if it is different and distinct. In reality, that Deva is avibhakta, undivided. Avibhaktam cha bhuteshu vibhaktam iva jasthidam, vibhaktam iva. As if it diverges. The same reality is beyond all diversity and plurality, is the same, which exists as the same in all beings as the indweller Antaryami, Kshetrajna, same Kshetrajna exists in all beings and Antaryami. So, and again, the same Deva, the same reality exists in all beings in a subtle form, in an invisible form, that is Eko Deva Sarvabhuteshu Gudha, etc. So that means the Vyashti and the Samashti are the same as at the Sthula level, Sukshma level, and also at the Karana level. That means Sthula in Jagat state level, Sukshma in Swapna dream state level, and as Antaryami in Prajna or Sushupti state. The same. In other words, Adhyatmika and Adhideva. Adhyatma means something related to our own individual Vyashti dimension. Adhideva means the cosmic universal. Are the same. Whatever is there, it is there also. The entire cosmos, the entire universe is nothing but a grand replica of our own miniature form. I mean, we are all a miniature dimension of the universal. The universal is nothing but the universal cosmic dimension of the miniature. The macro is only a samashti dimension of micro, means the individual dimension. That's the idea. So this is stated with the help of some pramana vakyas from Upanishad and also from Bhagavad Gita. Sarveshu karaneshu avisheshu abhi Dakshinaakshini Upanadhi Padava Darshana Tatra Visheshena Nirdesha Asya Vishwasya Dakshinakshi Gadu Drishtva Rupam Nimedidaksham Tadeva Smaran Manasi Anta Swapne Tadeva Vasana Rubhavyaktam Pashyati. So I get it. Okay, now listen, let's finish now. With your eyes opened, you see an object. Then you close your eyes. Then what happens? That object becomes a subtle form. It is called a memory. So this idea. So Swapna experiences are like memories. So in Mandukya Upanishad, dream objects, dream experiences are equated to memories. It is a fact. Suppose you see an elephant in front of you, and then in the Bhashya says, Nimedidakshaha Tadeva Smaran Manasi Supnaiva Tadeva Vasana Abhivyaktam. You open your eyes, see an elephant, then you close your eyes. Then you see the same elephant where Manasi. And you remember the elephant that you saw when your eyes were opened. It is Smriti. So my experiences are nothing but Smriti. All dream experiences are just like memories. We are recreating, reproducing, reliving whatever we have gone through in waking state. But this happens at the mental level. It is true even in waking state also. You see an elephant in front of you, and then you remain there closing your eyes. You continue seeing this elephant. That vision is called memory. If you cannot remember, then you cannot really see that elephant again at the mental level. The same you were present when you saw the elephant with open eyes. The same you is present when you closed your eyes and again saw it in your mental eye. It is Smriti. Similarly, the same Turiya in waking state see external objects out in the outer world. The same Turiya is present in Swapna and again identifies, experiences the whole thing at the mental level. It's called Smriti, Swapna experience. The same Turiya in Prajna state, Sushupti state experiences the absence of any of these experiences. Experiences the absence of experience means the same Turiya has got the awareness of not having experienced anything in Sushupti state. So absence of seeing anything is also an indication of awareness. I had a wonderful sleep. You recollect you had a wonderful sleep. The same you are present when you are sleeping. The same you are present when you are woken up. And you recollect your dreams. Why? Because the same you are present when you're dreaming. The same you are present when you come out of your dream. If another person is waking up, it cannot be. Then you won't recollect. So there is a connecting bridge between all the three states. But three states are different, but there is a connecting bridge. But in reality, that Turiya is not involved in any of the three states. It's Sanatraya Vidrikta. In the Mayavi, the magician is standing there. That's why I read this at the beginning itself, to make you understand this. The magician is standing there right now, maybe smiling at the whole stupidity of the gullible people standing, watching and enjoying. But those who are not aware of the reality, they are seeing this magician climbing up, throwing the rope and all that. That's the idea behind. Okay, we'll conclude that in the next. We'll continue tomorrow. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om.